Man, they just had to leave us off on that cliffhanger to end this week's episode of Blue Box. Hina basically telling Chinatsu that she likes Taiki. And I'm guessing what the follow-up will be is, do you like Taiki too? We could be getting the fight for Taiki coming soon. And I think it's the last bit or the last thing that Hina maybe could do, because if she knows that, obviously, if she knows that Shinatsu has no feelings towards Taiki, then she can just go all in offensively, and guess what? She can be a good backup plan for Taiki whenever he sees her he sees him confess to her, and if Shinatsu were to say no, then yeah. But look, I think at this point, I don't think that Shinatsu is going to say no to Taiki. And again, we get another episode here in Blue Box to where Shinatsu is being very, very, very obvious with how she feels about him, and the jealousy and the fact that she's being a lot more interactive around here, and she knows what she wants. She knows that she wants Taiki, and she wants to be more than just friends with Taiki. Like, legitimately. And this episode was good in terms of building the relationships in the relationship, and kind of the whole thing of like, hey, what if, type of thing, right? But I think we all know at the end of this show, the final episode, they're going to be together. Like, they're going to be a couple. Because it only makes sense that's where they're headed. But we get in this week's episode basically some things. I'm gonna go all over the place. I think one of the first things I want to talk about is the Hina component. So obviously I just talked about the Hina component in terms of telling Shinatsu about her feelings for Taiki, but she also has this conversation with Kyo, and seemingly enough, it looks like they potentially could be setting up a Kyo x Hina relationship by the end. And maybe, honestly, we know Hina won't get Taiki. There's a good chance she could get Kyo, because Kyo makes the mention of how much he admires her for going out there and confessing her feelings to somebody that she likes, when Kyo realistically was too afraid to do so, and because he knew he stood no shot. And basically he told her, like, look, I really admire the work you're doing to try to get Taiki's heart, right? But obviously we know that's going to be all for naught. And again, that could be a potential relationship angle set up there by the end, where maybe Hina doesn't get Taiki, but hey, she starts dating Kyo. And maybe Kyo's okay with it. I think Kyo likes Hina and everything. We just haven't seen much of him to get a gauge on, like, does he actually like her, or does he just like her as a friend? So we'll see. But realistically, this episode was just about continuing the building blocks of Chinatsu and Taiki's relationship. And they do the whole thing of, the time apart, the heart wants what it wants. The more you're apart from each other, the harder, the more you want to see each other, right? And we have it to where Chinatsu's mother comes back, right? And she came back to Japan to take care of Chinatsu's grandfather, because he's, like, I think they said he had surgery or whatever. And essentially Chinatsu's going to be staying over with her mom, right? So because of it, this is going to be the first time that Chinatsu and Taiki are basically apart from each other. And they know each other really well, and they've grown their relationship to a point where it's like, okay, it's back on track. So that's the thing. Now Taiki's obviously worried, like, holy shit, will I ever see her? And everything. So there's that. But basically, what happens is they make a promise to see each other the following morning at the gym, because typically they're like the first two people that get to the gym, right? So he gets to the gym, he runs, he's obviously happy. He's like, I'm gonna see Chinatsu, I'm gonna spend some time with her, and everything, right? But it's not Chinatsu, it's Harayu. And Haruyu shows up pretty early, more earlier than he typically would show up, and he wants to go on a run, and he takes Taiki, right? So Taiki didn't really see Chinatsu for the rest of the day. He ends up getting back home, and he sees Chinatsu at home. Now, at first, I'm just like, oh, did she just get homesick and, she wanted to stay at the Taiki's residency? I'm like, okay, I guess it makes sense, maybe. Um, but no, she had to come get something, and basically she's like, "Hey, why weren't you there in the gym in the morning?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm like, I got there, but Haru took me out. Why weren't you there? Typically, you're always there." And she's like, "Well, I wanted to run my way to get to the gym," and I'm just like, "Oh, she ran her way to get to the gym." Okay, yeah, you can't tell me she does not want to see this dude and talk to this dude, right? So that's the thing. But anyways, while everything's going on in the episode, they're having like a cultural festival that they typically have in, you see in these slice of life high school shows, right? And basically Taiki has to this one they're doing like a play. Hina's gonna be like Snow White. He's not gonna be like this dude. I think this one chick is gonna be like the prince or whatever, but he's like kind of like a producer behind the scenes, right? So one of the people in his class like, hey, you got to give this to one of our senpais so then we can get approval and everything. So he does that, and Chinatsu's there eating her lunch by herself. Now, why she's eating lunch by herself in her classroom, I don't know why. Maybe her friends are not there, maybe her friends had something to do, I don't know. But they basically have kind of sit down talk, and basically you get this like what if moment of like, hey, what if Taiki and Chinatsu were in the same grade? And you kind of get this whole thing of like him being the lazy person and everything. They taught, and the teacher's the one waking him up, and they laugh about it because it's like they're like childhood friends essentially, right? And then she also says like, where do you sit? Because he's like, oh, so this is where you sit in the back of the class. You don't like doze off or anything. Shinatsu's like, please, I don't do that. No. And basically Taki's like, well, I actually sit right next to you if it was my classroom, right? So that's when it got into the whole thing, and I'm like, I thought that was adorable and everything, because like, oh, what could it be? And at that point, I'm just like, okay, yeah, listen, bruh, you can't tell me that Shinatsu doesn't like him. And to the point, like, she even says, like, you do know you could, skip a grade and, you know, join up in my class. And obviously, Taiki's like, I'm not that smart to do something like that. And she starts laughing by that, but I'm like, okay, yeah, she's being very obvious with her feelings, like there's no way you're gonna tell this dude, hey, I think you should skip a class so you can come, be in so we can be in the same class together, right? So you get that whole thing right then and there, right? Another moment in the episode you get is they run into each other, and they basically explain each other what they're doing for the cultural festival. She says, I heard that you guys are doing a play. And yeah, Taiki's like, oh yeah, but I'm not playing like a specific role or anything. I'm just kind of like gonna be behind the scenes. And we find out like, um Chinasu's class is doing like a cafe type of thing. And sadly for Taiki, she will not be in like a waitress outfit or anything, so he can't like be served by Chinatsu. Albeit that would be a very adorable moment where she's serving him to eat something. So there's that. But Hina comes in and she looks back and she sees Hina like talking to him and everything. So then she gets home the next day, or not the next day, the same night, and she's watching like I guess this rom-com drama show, and her mom's talking about how this girl in the show is not expressing her feelings, and it's kind of becoming unfair and a burden. Like, if you're not going to express your feelings or anything, then what the hell are you doing? So then it gets Chinatsu to think about it in the tub, in the bathtub, and she's like, well, I know that Hina and Taiki are not dating, but I do know that Hina really likes Taiki. And she's just like, kind of like, you can say she's kind of just like, I really like Taiki, but like, legitimately, like, what do? I couldn't even like tell him, like, I don't know if I could have the courage to even tell him how I feel about him, right? So she's having the whole like dilemma of like, how, Hina's obviously somebody she sees like, okay, she was very bold to announce her feelings to Taiki, but she doesn't know if she's confident enough to do it, which is her own insecurities, right? So that's the thing. And then the last thing was kind of like, she oversees him talking to a younger classman, right, from junior high. And they're like, oh, they're calling him senpai. And she's like, oh, Inamata senpai. And he's just like, it seems like you're getting a kick out of that, aren't you? And, they basically talk about height and everything. He says, like, I'm supposed to grow a little bit taller. So that's the thing. And essentially, you have this another adorable moment, but another moment to where it's like, dog, she's clearly hitting on you and she likes you. Like, you gotta freaking like bring this whole thing up. You gotta just be like, hey, why are you saying all this and or whatever, right? And she literally grabs his shirt. She's like, actually, I kind of like you at this height. I think you need to, I think you're fine right here. And it's kind of the whole thing of like, and then she later on, she's like, oh, you could just stay where you're at right now. And he's like, well, I want to grow. That's the case. And basically the whole moral of this point was she likes Taiki as is. She doesn't want him to grow. She wants him to be the same old same old Taiki, which even if he does grow in height, like I don't think he would change or anything, but that's basically implication saying like she likes the current Taiki right now. Like she walks off like because he's like, wait, what do you mean by that? And she says nothing. So it's clear, like, nah, dude, she's shooting her shot and she's asking. She's like clearly like liking this dude. So we'll see what happens next week. Maybe Chinatsu, this is the moment where Chinatsu basically goes in and says, like, she says, like, yes, I like Taiki. And she does the typical girl thing we see where she'll probably say, like, look, I know you like Taiki too, but I'm not gonna let him go. Taiki's mine, right? And maybe that will get Hina to finally back off to know, like, okay, yeah, he's probably gonna win. We'll see. But overall, a really good episode. Definitely can't wait to see more. And yeah, but anyways, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Catch you guys on the next video. Until then, guys, I'll see you guys later for more Blue Box next week. Till then, guys, peace.